Hi, this is Pavel with a C# exercise. We will be building a circle hierarchy, basically object-oriented programming techniques with inheritance. We will create abstract class and so forth. So here's the assignment. First, we will create an abstract class called shape, which will just have the ToString method, which will be empty. Then we will create a class point that will inherit from shape. And this class should contain two member variables u and v, corresponding property and constructors, and overriding ToString. Then a class circle that inherits from point. This class should contain member variable radius, corresponding property and constructors, read-only properties, diameters, circumference area, or methods for calculating these values. Now I'll be using read-only properties, not methods. And also ToString method that has to be overwritten. And finally, a class called cylinder that inherits from circle, and just like before, it will have some variables like height and properties that correspond with the member variables, and a constructor, and once again read-only properties to calculate volume, area, volume and area, and ToString method. Okay, now we're supposed to make sure that the methods in the classes circle and cylinder call corresponding methods, for example the area or ToString of the parent classes using the base option, and methods ToString in classes circle and cylinder should display values of member variables, in other words, let's say the diameter, and then as well the properties, areas, circumference, and basically what we will calculate, like the volume and area for cylinder. And we will create an array of shapes in our test program that would store one instance of each of the class point of the classes point, circle, and cylinder, and we will call the ToString methods for each of them to display the information. Alright, so that's the assignment. So let's create the first. We will create the class shape, and it's supposed to be an abstract class, so let's just call it abstract class, and in it we will have nothing but the ToString method, which will be empty. Public override abstract and string to string. Nothing in it. That's it for the abstract class. The reason why we have in shape and nothing in it, it's going to become very handy when we create the array of objects. You will see later. Okay, so now the second class is the class point. So here it is, class point, and in it we are going to inherit from shape, and we will create the member variables u and v, private integer u, private integer v. We will create a constructor, public point, and we will pass, or we will accept the u and v, like those 2 points, and now we will assign them. We will assign them to our properties. So let's create a public properties for both u and v. So public integer u, and in it we will get, which will simply return our member variable u, and we will get set, which the u will the u will equal the value being passed, and we will do the same for v. I'll just copy paste it, except this one will be called v, and the point in this case is v. So now when we come to our constructor, we can assign our u property will equal to u, whatever is being passed, and v equals v, which is again being passed into the constructor. Now we need the ToString method for our points, so public override string ToString, and we will return a formatted as a string format, and it can say something like I don't know, maybe like on a new line. I need here on a new line, it will say this is point class, and again on a new line we can output the variables u and v. So it can say something like point u equals, and a placeholder for that, and point v equals, and a placeholder for that, and the placeholders will be the properties u and v. Okay, so that's really all there is. Just a second, I'm getting some error here. Identifier expected, and that's because I forgot the integer v. So that's our a point that inherits from shape. So again, we have 2 points u and v, and the properties for both u and v that get and set the values, and we will set the values in our constructor by passing the u and v into it. So that's our point. So now let's create a circle. Okay, so I'll go create a circle class. There you go. And in it we need a radius, which is a private. I'll use just integers. Radius, that's a private member variable, and I will also need a property that retrieves and sets it. So again, I will do public integer radius, and the property will get, which means return simply our radius, and finally it will also set the radius to the value being passed into the property. Okay, so now we can go and create actually our constructors above. So I'll do public circle. By the way, before I move any further, this one is supposed to inherit from point. If you remember, class circle then inherits from point. So be inheriting from point. So public radius, where am I? Here, circle, and it needs to pass some variables, or it needs to accept some variables. First, we need the radius. That's something we need just for the circle. But now, since we are inheriting from point, we need to pass the u and v into its constructor. Now, we technically don't need any points for our circle, but again, since it's inheriting from point, we need to pass it to it. However, another way to do it, again, since we don't really need u and v for our circle, we can come to our point and create another constructor, and that would be an empty one. So now we have an empty constructor. Now we don't need to pass the whatever the public point constructor expects, which is the u and v. Now we can call the empty constructor without passing any values at all. And yeah, let's see. I don't know if that's what they really want for this assignment. I think they just want to show how the hierarchy is when you inherit directly. Well, let's do it this way for now, and we'll see how that goes. So into our circle constructor, we don't need to call the base again, because we are calling the empty constructor, not the one that expects the u and v. So we will do we can do our radius equals radius. Now in circle we're supposed to calculate the diameter, circumference, and area. Now the diameter is and we're supposed to use either methods or read-only properties. Read-only properties: diameter, circumference, and area. I'm gonna use the read-only properties. So public read-only, we will return double diameter, and the other one will be again double circumference, and the area. So public read-only double area. Now I cannot assign anything or any formula or any values to these. These are read-only. Like the only way to initialize this any read-only property is in a constructor. All right, so we have to go to our constructor and do a diameter, and the diameter is simply radius times 2. Radius times 2. That's the diameter of a circle. Now circumference equals, I have some formulas here that I googled. Let me just make sure that it fits. Well, circle circumference 2 times p times r. So we go to our math, pi, I'm sorry, did I say p? It's pi, of course, times 2 times r, which is the radius. And our area equals, if I go to our area, circle area is pi times r to the power of 2. So we go to our math dot pi and times to the math dot power of 2 of radius. So the double, as you can see in the IntelliSense, the double x, which would be the radius, and double y is the precision floating point that specifies a power, which is power of 2, so it's 2. And these are our formulas that are passed to our read-only properties. And we also need the ToString method, so I'll do public override string ToString, and again I will return a formatted string, so it's gonna be string.format, and it will say something like just like before we had it can say this is circle class, and on new line we will do radius, diameter, and circumference. So we will do radius equals and the placeholder. Then on a new line we will do diameter equals placeholder 1, and on new line it's gonna say let me just copy that word, I can never spell it right. So circumference equals another placeholder, second one, and finally on the last line it will say area equals and a placeholder, and the placeholders will be the radius, which is the property radius, then the diameter, and circumference and area, comma, and area is the last placeholder. Okay, so that is our ToString method for the circle. Now lastly they want us to do is cylinder. So let's create an object of cylinder. So I go to my solution explorer, add, and class cylinder. And cylinder supposed to inherit from circle, I believe. Class cylinder inherits from circle, yes. So let's do that. Circle, and it requires a height. So we do integer height. And when we're added, we can as well do the property height to get the values from it and set it. Height, and it's gonna be just like before, get, which is gonna return the value of height, and set, which will set the value of height to the value being passed. Alright, so we have that, and now we can do our constructor. So public cylinder, cylinder. Now it's inheriting from circle, and circle requires a radius, which is fine because we require radius as well for the cylinder in order to do the calculations. So we go to, we'll pass an integer of radius, and we also need the height, integer height. Now since we are passing the radius, we have to go to pass it to our circle, to the circle constructor. So we'll do our base and pass the radius to it. And now we can go and assign the height property, which will equal to the height that is being passed into the constructor of our cylinder. And again, we need to calculate volume and area. So I'll do another public read-only double volume and public read-only double area. Now we can come over here, and just like before, we assign the formulas to our properties. So our volume equals, and I have it somewhere in here. Where's my Google? So our volume is pi times r to the power of 2 times h. So we go to our math.pi times what was it, times math to the power, which is the radius, to the power of 2, and times the height. So that's our volume, and our area equals, and that's over here, 2 times pi times radius times h, which is height, plus 2 times pi times radius to the power of 2. So this one's slightly longer, so I'll just start using some brackets, some parentheses. So it's gonna be 2 times pi times radius times height plus, and it's supposed to be 2 times what was that again? 2 times pi times r to the square, the power of 2. So pi times power of radius to the power of 2. Now that is our area of the cylinder. So we have that, and now we can create a ToString method, public override string ToString, and let's just return string.format, and just like we did before on new line, we will say something like this is cylinder class. I don't know why I have it all capitalized now. This is cylinder class, and on new line we will output the height, radius, and what is it, volume and area. So on new line it will say something like height equals, and of course there's gonna be some placeholders here, and then radius equals, and volume equals, and finally area equals. Oops, like this. And now the placeholders are, of course, height, radius, volume, and area. Alright, so that is our cylinder, and now we can test the program and see if it works. So I go to my program, and I'm gonna create, remember we're supposed to have a array of objects, and this is where the abstract class shape comes handy, because now I don't have to pass separate cylinder and circle and point, like 3 different objects into our array. I can simply create an array of shapes, because they all inherit from shape directly or indirectly. Point inherits from shape directly, circle inherits from point, and point inherits from shape, and again cylinder inherits from circle, which inherits from points, which inherits from shape. So they are all part of shape. So I can create a shape array, call array of shapes, new shape, and let's just do 3, one for point, one for circle, and one for cylinder. And let's assign some values to our array. So array of shapes, the first one, let's make it a point. So new point object will we create, and we will pass, it expects to point. Now we can pass nothing, because remember in point we created also a default constructor that is empty, but we want to pass our values, our points, which is, let's say, 10 and 20, which is the u and v. Now array of shapes 1, which is the next element, we will create a circle. So circle, and circle expects a radius, so let's make a radius of, I don't know, 15. And finally our array of shapes, we will create a cylinder, new cylinder. A cylinder expects a radius and a height. So let's make this radius 25 and height, let's say 50. So this is our array. Now we can simply loop through our array and display display the ToString method of each of the class or the object. So item in the array of shapes, and we will do console dot write line, and we will write down the item. Now before I exit it, I need to do console dot read key, just to pause the screen. Alright, so let's see what we get. We get an error. Alright, so there's some recognized escape sequence. Oh, I don't have an N here. There were some other errors that will probably pop up. expected. Okay, I didn't close the parentheses, and this is underlined. It says this method or this area, the cylinder dot area hides inherited member circle dot area. Remember, we have an area over here that we calculate for the circle. Now cylinder inherits from circle, which inherits the area read-only property. So now it's called hiding. It basically hides this property. Now to get away with the error, it's not even an error, it would still work, but we use the new keyword to make sure that the program knows that this is intended, that we meant to name this area, this property area, even though there already is one in the circle. So all you need to do is new public read-only area, and the squiggly should go away when I run it again. Oh, there's still some errors. Semicolon. Oh. Alright, so that should be the last one. Hopefully it will run now. And we got our point, which is 10 and 20, which is correct. That's already passed, but we got an error as well. So let me see what we get over here. It's in our program. Let me just run it again, see what I get. It says index 0 base must be greater than or equal to 0 unless then argument list. Okay, so let me see what I did. I messed up some. That's because this one is not 4, it's 3. Jeez. I was not paying much attention. When I speak and type, I'm having a quite hard time with that. Alright, here we go. So here is our, let me go to my program so we can see the values that we passed. So in a point we passed 10 and 20. So it prints, this is point class, 10 and 20. Then it prints circle, which we passed 15 for the radius. So the diameter is 30, 2 times 15. And we can check the values or the the formulas. So for the area, for the circumference, the areas that the radius that we passed was 25. No, it wasn't. It was 15. 15. So the circumference is 94.25, which is over here. You can see 94.25. So that's working fine. Now when we go to our area, we pass the radius again. It was 15. So the area is 706.86, which is over here, 706.86. So that is correct. Now let's do the cylinder. We pass the radius of 25 over here and the height of 50. So the volume is 98,174.77, which matches. You can see that. And finally, the area of the cylinder. Again, we pass the radius of 25 and the height of 50, and you can see it's 11,780.97, which is 11,780.97. So that actually is working as expected. Now we could do something like this to show you, for example, for the cylinder. At the end, I will append the ToString method of the circle. Since we are inheriting it, I can simply append the base of the base class and go and append the string method of that. So base dot ToString. So now, after it outputs all this information for the cylinder, it will also output the circle information. Let me show you what that does. So here is the cylinder class. It calculates the volume, the area, and then it goes and it says this is circle class. And you can see in our original circle class, we used the radius of 15, but now the radius is 25 because this is the radius that we are passing into our circle class through the cylinder. All right, so let's quickly calculate or make sure that the circle still works. So in this case, the radius is 25 and the circumference is 157.08, which is correct, and the area would be, again, the circle, the radius is 25, so it's 1963.5, which is correct. So you can see that it recalculates it based on the values that we pass through our cylinder, because when we are passing the radius into our base, which is in this case our circle class, so it recalculates everything and outputs it with the newly passed radius. All right, so that's how the base class, when called works. It outputs whatever the ToString method for the base class of this particular class, which is cylinder. It inherits from circle, so it outputs everything for the circle ToString method, but using the radius of 25 in this case, not the 15 that we used originally when we created the circle object. Okay, so that's all. I hope this was helpful. As always, like the video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed, and I'll see you next time. Take care.